Alright guys, this is my third video on functions, and this one is called composite functions. And long story short, composite functions come about when you put a function inside another function. So for example, here we have defined f of x to be 3x minus 2 and g of x to be x squared plus 1. I could now go and find f g of x, and to find f g of x, what I'm actually going to do is take g of x and put it inside of f of x. Now let's have a quick recap from what we did on the first video. If I have f of, let's say, the number 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace x in the function with the number 1. So what happens is I end up having 3 times 1 minus 2. So all I've done is replace that x with the number 1, and it's 3 times x, so 3 times 1, take away 2, and then that gives us 1 as our answer. Now look at what we have here. What we have is the whole of g of x going inside of f of x. So what we really need to do is everywhere there is x inside of f of x, we replace it with g of x. Well, let's do that then. So that equals to 3 times g of x minus 2. So here I replace the x with g of x because it was g going into f. Okay, so that should be pretty straightforward. So now that I've replaced it with g of x, let's find out what g of x is. Well, g of x is all of this over here, x squared plus 1. So you guessed it, I'm going to replace this with x squared plus 1. So now I'm going to have 3 x squared plus 1 minus 2. Right, I hope I haven't lost you there. If you find it really difficult, I mean, just pause the video and just give yourself 2 minutes to just let it sink in, okay? So here I've put g inside of x, and now I just need to expand out the bracket. 3x squared plus 3 minus 2. I can pretty much subtract these two here, giving me 3x squared plus 1. So therefore, fg of x is 3x squared plus 1. All right, that was pretty straightforward. There's some other things we can look at as well. If you've been given a situation where you need to find, right, let's just say you need to find gf of x this time. What I want you to appreciate is this is not the same as that. So this is something completely different to what that is. This one here, we took g and we put it into f. This one, we're taking f and we're putting it into g. So it is a completely different thing. So I'm going to put brackets around that. And just the same way we would have taken a number and substituted into g, we'll take f of x and put that into g. So what we're going to end up having is f of x squared plus 1. Because it says x squared plus 1, we replace the x with f of x. Okay, let's bring it down. We know that f of x is actually equal to 3x minus 2 there. So I'm just going to replace that with 3x minus 2. So that's going to become 3x minus 2 squared plus 1. We can simplify. If you want, you can leave it like that. But depending on the nature of the question, you might be required to simplify it as far as possible, which means that you will need to expand this bracket. Now, if you looked at my video on expanding brackets, when we started dealing with simple algebra, I think I've called it simple algebra, then you would know that you're not allowed to just square this and square that. This here actually means that you need to do 3x minus 2 multiplied by 3x minus 2. You have to do that. And then you have to expand that, multiplying each in turn. All right, you can do that in your own time. I'm just going to jump straight to it. So this becomes 9x squared minus 12x plus 4 plus 1. That's plus 1 is this plus 1 here. But all of this is that when you expand that. Okay. All right, let's finish this off. The only thing we can combine are these two because these are the only like things here. So our final answer is 9x squared minus 12x plus 5. Okay, so we've just spent nearly 6 minutes going through what this means to combine two functions. The last part of it as well, another tricky thing that they might do is they might give you a function that is pretty much, let's stick to the simpler one, f of x. So you might see something like that, okay? And you might think, oh, what is that? Well, it's not really that bad. It's pretty much the same thing you're doing. What you're doing here is substituting f into itself, okay? And you might be thinking, oh, how we do that? Well, let's see. If we're substituting f into itself, we go back to the function for f of x up here. And where there's x, we're going to put f of x in its place. So now we're going to have 3 f of x minus 2. And you already know that f of x is 3x minus 2. So replace this with 3x minus 2. That gives us 3 into 3x minus 2 minus 2. Then this 3 will expand out that bracket, giving us 9x minus 6 minus 2 there. And that minus 2 is this minus 2 on the end there. And we've got the 9x minus 6 there. These are the only two things we can combine. I hope your negative numbers are very good because I hope you don't get confused with this. So 9x minus 8 is the final answer on that one. Okay, and that's that done. All right, so far I hope you've understood what happens when you put a function into another function. Let's go doing some questions now. Okay, so here's our first example that we're going to work out. It defines that f of x is equal to 2x, g of x is x plus 2. I thought we should keep it nice and simple before we get started. And then our first job is to find fg of 7. Now we're going to do it two ways, and you can choose the way that you like. So let's call it method 1 over here and method 2 over there, side by side, and see which way you like. Okay. Method 1, pretty much I would call it, I don't know, maybe it's the longest, maybe it's the hardest way, I'm not sure. I would find fg of x first, okay, for method 1. And what we need to do here, we need to take g and put it inside of f. So everywhere there is x inside of f, I'm going to put g of x in there. So what I'm going to end up having is 2 times g of x. Now, I know that g of x is x plus 2. Oh, by the way, just to make sure we know what we're doing, there's the x there. And we're taking g and put it inside there. So replacing x with g of x, okay? All right. So g of x is actually equal to x plus 2. And then we expand out that bracket, giving us 2x plus 4. But the question asked us to find fg of 7. So now that I've got g of x, I can now find fg of 7, which means that I will now, this is, let me just make sure I write this in, that this is fg of x, okay? So now I'll need to replace this x with the number 7. So now I'm going to have 2 times 7 plus 4, which then gives us 14 plus 4, which is 18. Now that's the first method. You can go that way if you like. My personal favorite, which is now going to come up in method 2. And method 2 is, I'm just going to take this bit alone first. So I'm just literally just going to do this. Ignore the f for now. And I'm just going to work out g of 7. So g of 7, I'm going to do that first. So look at your g of x, where there's x, I'm going to put 7 in its place, okay? So here I'm going to have 7 plus 2, and that gives me 9. Now that I know that g of 7 is 9, now all I need to do is find f of 9. Because now, remember, it was fg of 7. G of 7 in and of itself is equal to 9. So this whole bit here is actually equal to 9. So now I need to just take that 9 and put it into f. Okay, so f of 9 will be 2 times 9, because I'm just replacing that x with 9, and we get 18. Much shorter, a lot quicker, and so on. So it's up to you. The question might ask you to find fg of x first. They might ask you in the question to do that. And if they do, then it only makes sense to plug that 7 in once you're done. But if they didn't and they just gave you that, then you can just pop onto here. All right, it's now time for you to do some work. Okay, here are 3 questions for you to go through on your own. Just pause the video and have a go. Find fg of 3, ff of 2, gf of x, once f is defined as 4x plus 3 and g of x is defined as 5x. So pause the video there and have a go. Okay, so here we go. Let's go through the first one quickly. So fg of 3. I'm going to favor method 2 on this one because I like method 2. It's a lot quicker. So I'm going to find g of 3 first. So I'm going to look at my g of x, and I'm just going to replace that with 3 there. So that becomes 5 times 3, which gives me 15. Now that I know that g of 3 is 15, I am now going to plug that into here. I'm just going to put brackets around there to say that I now need to go and find f of 15 because g of 3 is 15. So f of 15 is equal to, now I'm just going to replace that x with 15, which is going to be 4 times 15 plus 3. 4 times 15 is 60. Plus 3 gives me 63. Okay, and that is now done. Now, so that one's finished. The next one we're going to look at is ff of 2. So again, I'm going to favor method 2 on this one. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find f of 2 first. So let's find f of 2. So f of 2 is equal to, pop up here, replace that x with the number 2. So I'm going to have 4 times 2 plus 3. That gives us 8 plus 3, which, oopsie, I've already started putting the answer down without even finishing the question. 8 plus 3, which gives us 11. Okay, so now that I know that f of 2, let's put that in, f of 2 is 11, I now need to substitute 11 into f again, because that's going to be my f of 2. That works out to be 11, just this bit here. So now I need to put 11 into f again. So I'm going to now go f of 11 this time, and I'm going to replace this x with 11. So now I get 4 times 11 plus 3. That gives us 44 plus 3, and that gives us 47. And that one is done. Okay, so therefore ff of 2 is 47. All right, just the same way I forgot to write this one here, over here, fg of 3 is 63. All right, now let's move over here just a little bit to finish this last one. Now this last one is a bit of a bad boy, so we'll sort him out now. G f of x. So we're taking f to put it into g. Let's pop that in some brackets just so we have things in perspective here. So it means that when I go to my g of x, wherever there's x, I'm going to replace it with f of x. So let's go then. So g f of x is going to be equal to 5 times f of x. So all we've done is replace the x with f of x, okay? So 5 times f of x. Now we know that f of x is equal to 4x plus 3, so we're just going to replace it with that. So this becomes 5 times 4x plus 3. And then we expand out that bracket, that becomes 20x plus 15. And that is now done. So g f of x is equal to 20x plus 15. All right, guys, that is now done. And that is the end of our video on composite functions. Sometimes, just a little bit of a warning, sometimes they might define 3 functions. They might define f, g, h of x, and so on. That's as hard as it might get. If you think that you might need to see a video on that, then I'm happy to do one. Just request it. But other than that, it's the same principle. You take h, you put it into g, and then when you get that answer, you take that whole answer and put it into f. It's not really that scary. Same sort of situation as I've just shown you. All right, so yeah, I hope you did learn something. Feel free to like and subscribe.